So Lisa and I have developed a kind of pattern that on the fourth Sunday of every month, we preach an intergenerational sermon, something to appeal to the babes in arms, up through the those who remember Babe Ruth. I don't know. That didn't really work, did it?
It worked for Tom.
It worked for Tom. Okay. So, how do you do that on the first Sunday in Lent? When we begin with the great litany, and this great confession, and we get all these stories about giving in to temptation and the fall of mankind in the garden and so on and so forth. I had no idea. But then I remembered a few months ago when Sarah and I took Sybil to see a movie in the theaters. It was called Inside Out 2. And kids, I need your help to identify this character. I brought a friend along this morning. That kind of sums up everything I want us to think about today. In Inside Out 2, we get introduced to a new character, right? Inside Out, we experience the emotions and the thoughts that are inside the mind of a little girl. And in Inside Out 2, she becomes a teenager. God help us all. And we're introduced to a new character.
Anxiety.
Yes, exactly. Anxiety. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend it. Anxiety shows up on the scene carrying lots of baggage. Yes, you get it. Okay. So anxiety is going to be with us today. You want to hold that? Thank you. So Lent begins in a very strange place, right? It doesn't start out in a beautiful sanctuary. It doesn't start around a table at a shared meal. In fact, it doesn't start in control at all. It begins out in the wilderness. And most of us do not have to imagine a wilderness. We know it well. It feels like, hold it up, that way. Thank you. Anxiety. Let's try that again. It feels like,
Anxiety.
Yes. It comes in different forms. It feels like that thought that keeps you awake at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? You can sit down now, Sybil. It feels like watching the news and sensing the ground just shift beneath our feet. It feels like checking the bank account, not being sure if it's all there. It feels like waiting on the diagnosis. It feels like looking to the future and not being able to see how it's going to turn out. The gospel says that Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted. He wasn't lost. He wasn't abandoned. He was led. Remember that. And what meets him there is not outrageous temptations. They are deep-seated fears and anxieties of human life. First, there's the fear of scarcity. Command these stones to become bread, the devil says. Well, Jesus is hungry. 40 days and 40 nights is a long time to go without anything to eat or drink, right? And that anxiety is simple. There will not be enough. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough security, not enough future. We live in a culture that is fluent in scarcity. Amen? The markets depend on it. Politicians exploit it. Even churches can quietly fear it. Most churches quietly fear it. Scarcity makes us grasp. It tightens our hands. It makes us tighten our hearts. The tempter whispers, "Secure yourself." And Jesus replies, "One does not live by bread alone." He doesn't deny that he's hungry. He denies that bread is the ultimate solution to his need. Lent doesn't ask us to pretend that we're not hungry. It asks us to examine what we think will save us. Second, there is the fear of the unknown. Throw yourself down, force God's hand, make it certain, make it dramatic. Yes, exactly. Anxiety hates uncertainty. We would rather leap into spectacle than sit in ambiguity. We say, "Prove it, God. Prove you will catch me. Prove that this will all work out." Okay. Uncertainty, knowing what your daughter will do during the service. But Jesus says, do not put the Lord your God to the test. Faith is not about forcing the future. Faith is about trusting in the dark, quietly, steadily. Then there's the third temptation, a fear of powerlessness. All these I will give you if you will bow down and worship me. Now, beneath much of our national life right now is a deep fear. Fear that we are losing control. Fear that we are losing control of culture, control of institutions, control of the narrative. And when we feel powerless, power becomes intoxicating. We want it. If only the right people were in charge, right? If only we could secure the outcome. If only we had enough influence. The tempter offers Jesus a shortcut. Security in exchange for worship. And Jesus says, worship the Lord your God and serve only him. Only him. Because what we bow to shapes us. Remember that. What we bow to shapes us. If we bow to scarcity, we become fearful. If we bow to certainty, we become brittle. And if we bow to power, we become harsh. But if we bow to God, the God who feeds in the wilderness, the God who speaks in the stillness, the God whose power is revealed on the cross, if we bow to God, we become free. Now, I really want you to notice that the temptations are reasonable. Eat when you're hungry. Makes sense. Demand proof when you are uncertain. Take power whenever you can get it. The temptations are reasonable. These are common anxieties of ordinary life. And that is why this text matters so much. You see, in the story, in the gospel, the tempter begins with that small, destabilizing word, if. If. If you are secure, if you are loved, if you are enough. But before the wilderness at his baptism, a voice had already spoken. You are my beloved. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You are my beloved. Beloved. Remembering our belovedness is the antidote to our anxieties. This is what came up with my therapist last week, just in case you're wondering. It's not control, not dominance. It's belovedness. It's belonging. Lent invites us into a deep sense of honesty. Lent invites us to ask the troubling questions. Where are you afraid there will not be enough? Where are you desperate for certainty? Where are you grasping for control? The wilderness exposes those fears in the bright epiphany light, but it also tells the truth. The Spirit leads us there. You didn't stumble into the wilderness on your own. The Spirit leads us there, and angels minister there. You are not alone. Say that with me. I am not alone. Now say it like you believe it. We do this together. We resist together. We confess together. We learn to trust together. In a world anxious about having enough, we practice generosity. In a world anxious about the uncertain path, we practice prayer. In a world anxious about power, we practice service to others. We are not alone. And whenever you hear the tempter's if, remember what has already been spoken over you. You are beloved. So this Lent, may we loosen our grip on what we think can save us but cannot. May we refuse to bow to fear. May we worship the Lord our God, not only with our lips, but with our lives. By feeding the hungry, by clothing the vulnerable, by healing what we can, by helping where we are able, by praying and visiting, by inviting and welcoming. For every act of mercy is an act of worship. So 2 things to hold. What we bow down to is what makes us. But every act of mercy is an act of worship. Every small faithfulness is allegiance to God. So do not give yourselves to the temptations of this world, however reasonable they may be. When you feel the pull toward fear and are tempted to bow to something that promises safety but demands your allegiance in exchange, give yourselves instead to love. Give yourselves to trust. Give yourselves to hope. For the God who leads us into the wilderness is the same God who will never abandon us there. Amen.